This presentation is about the cycle of centralization and decentralization that occurs at many large companies. When companies are faced with large-scale and difficult change, it is often as a result of challenges with external market forces. The most common organization changes involve market repositioning, acquisition, integration, consolidation, and centralizing or decentralizing the control of the organization. This often creates fear, uncertainty, and power struggles. Decentralization never seems to cause much resistance within an organization, as it is generally linked to periods of growth and opportunity. However, the same cannot be said of the centralization phase. This slide represents a not too untypical profile of a successful company, with time on the x-axis and revenue on the y. At the formation of any company, the founders generally have all the decision-making and control centralized. This is centralized phase 1. Once they reach critical milestones, have a successful product offering with healthy market demand, they desperately want to gain as much market share as possible, particularly given that margins tend to be the highest at this stage. In order to grow and scale fast, they can no longer afford to be the constraints around decision-making. They must begin to delegate and allow significant degrees of freedom to be had within the operational sides of the business. This accelerates speed and is essentially decentralization phase 1. Many times this can appear chaotic, and the environments have often been compared to the Wild West with lots of people shooting from the hip. There often is lots of energy and excitement with significant external focus on serving the customer, and during this period people are mostly too busy to play politics. It does, however, lead to lots of waste, but as margins are high, this is tolerated. It's important to remember that high growth with high margins hide lots of sins. Then what often occurs is that new competitors enter the market, margins tend to drop, and revenue growth slows or stalls. This then prompts the organization to regroup and look to reduce costs, eliminate waste and excess from the system, do some consolidation, and leverage the whole of the organization. In order to do this, there needs to be an increase in central coordination and control. This then becomes centralization phase 2. When viewed objectively and from outside the system, this all appears logical. However, this process can appear very threatening to people within the system, as it suggests a big departure from the old way of doing business, with lots of uncertainty and unknowns. It often leads to significant organizational backlash and resistance, which is why this process has to be exceptionally well managed. If this process is done well, people will clearly understand what's happening, where they are in the process, and how to contribute to its success. If it's not done well, which unfortunately is often the case, it can stifle the company, introduce lots of politics, and prevent it from entering the next phase of growth. This often occurs when central resources get excessively power-hungry and overswing the pendulum and retain too much control centrally. This usually leads to business decline. Getting the right balance is crucial, and if it is done right, what it leads to is the next phase of decentralization. Decentralization phase 2. This is where the business units are once again given sensible degrees of freedom that are enough to ensure that their needs for autonomy are satisfied and that the needs of control by corporate are also satisfied. The result then is growth generally begins again. People sometimes refer to this as hopping on another S-curve. It's important to realize that this is a perpetual cycle over the generation and history of the company, and the cycle can be repeated many times. Knowing that this is normal and predictable can be very helpful in people coming to grips with and dealing with what is happening. Knowing how to effectively manage through it is where leadership and change mastery comes into play. There is a process for increasing the likelihood of success of going through this process. And this is part of the work that we do at the Business Value Group. If you'd like to know more, please visit us at bvgintl.com. Thank you.